Hello, hello, hello. This is Warren Redlick. Thank you so much for watching. Thanks to the Vasa Law Firm and all my Patreon supporters for helping this channel grow. Check the video description for a link to Patreon. Really appreciate any support. To start off really quick, let's talk about Tesla. I did this tweet. I know a lot of people in the chat were talking about stock price predictions. I did this tweet a couple days ago, yesterday. Really thinking forward, I actually think this might be pessimistic. I think Tesla could conceivably achieve 5 million cars in 2023, but I just ran these numbers just to give some idea. If Tesla sells 5 million cars in 2024 with a $50,000 average selling price, 30% gross margin, that's $15,000. 30% gross margin of $50,000 is $15,000 times 5 million cars is $75 billion in gross profit. That probably works out to around $50 billion in net profit. A PE ratio of 50, which would be about right. Amazon's PE ratio is like 58, and Tesla will be growing faster at this point than Amazon is now. That would work out to a $2.5 trillion market cap, a $2,500 share price, and that ignores FSD revenue, robotaxi revenue, if there's a robotaxi network running by 2024, Tesla Energy, Tesla Bot AI as a service, all kinds of other things. So I think that Tesla should be valued in the ballpark of $5,000 a share by the end of 2024. I don't think it's crazy to say this could be the end of 2023 or early 2024. Like, you know, the trailing 12 months, Q3, Q4 of 2023 into Q2 of 2024, that could be 5 million cars. You know, it might reach a greater rate than 5 million cars before the end of 2024. So, a lot of questions. I got some bunch of questions about this. Some people were challenging the $50,000 average selling price, saying that the 2023 battery day vehicle, I'm thinking about calling it the BDV, the battery day vehicle, that the battery day vehicle is going to have a selling price of $25,000, so $50,000 average selling price is too high. No. This 5 million cars doesn't really include much of the 2023 battery day vehicle. They're not going to have ramped that vehicle yet. Maybe that'll be 500,000 cars, probably less than that. This is maybe 2 million Model Ys, maybe 1.5 million Model 3s, maybe 1 million Cybertrucks, 100,000 plus S's and X's, and then you throw in some of the battery day vehicles. So the bulk of these vehicles, Model Ys, are pretty much 50,000 and up. And that's the bulk of them. Cybertruck, yeah, there's going to be a $40,000 Cybertruck at some point, but it's really starting at 50 grand. Model 3, yeah, there's some Model 3s that are down around 40. But the average selling price of a Tesla, I think it's going to be over $50,000 in 2024, especially when you include the way we're going with inflation. I'm trying to ignore inflation with my numbers. I don't really think about it with inflationary thinking. But so that gives you a sense of where I think it's going. I remain very optimistic. I think if robotaxi takes off, I think the robotaxi network goes live in 2023, possibly late 2022, should be at least live somewhere in 2024. And the profit from the robotaxi network's insane. If you want to follow this channel, you know what I think about that. So crazy stuff. I'll be talking about the pod car a little later. Another little thing, I have a video that's hot right now. I published this video yesterday. It is so far, I think, the strongest video of the month for the channel, with Brian Wong, who's the guy on the other side of the picture. Brian and I talked about which automaker would go bankrupt first, that with the rise of Tesla, with the increase in their sales, and how that's going to eat into the sales of other car companies, who's going to go bankrupt first. This video is killing it. Regular viewers like you are watching it longer than usual. It has a very long watch time. That's kind of an unusual thing. This was an interview, and what I did was I edited the heck out of this video to shorten it. And I got some complaints that I was rude to Brian, and I think that's because the edits made it look like I cut him off in person in the conversation when I edited the video to remove ums and ahs and pauses and all those things. And I edit those aggressively because it makes people complain the videos are too long. I edited the heck out of this video to make it shorter. It's still like 1 hour and 20 minutes. But if I hadn't edited, it might be 2 hours. So if you feel like I'm being rude to somebody sometimes I am rude, let's be honest. But it's possible that it's the editing rather than me. Just saying. Okay, so Elon Oh, can I see that? Let's see. Elon was talking on Twitter about FSD. He was asked for an update about public FSD beta. Elon said that beta 10 is coming. I don't know if I have this tweet. Do I have that tweet? Maybe it's this tweet. Hang on, let me just check and see if it's this tweet. Okay, no, it's not this tweet either. I forget where I saw it. He's talking about beta 10, which goes out a week from Friday. So earlier there was talk that we were going to go from beta 9.2 to beta 9.3, which in that other tweet Elon was driving. They are skipping beta 9.3, FSD beta 9.3, and they're going straight to FSD beta 10, which will have a completely retrained neural network. So they'll need another few weeks after that for tuning and bug fixes. And then after that, Elon is hoping that they will be able to do the public beta button, which means a much larger group of people will be able to use FSD beta, the full FSD beta. It will still be beta. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of instructions about how to use it properly. So, and then same section down below. This is a different set of tweets, but Omar from Omar's catalog mentioned that he drove around San Francisco on FSD beta 9.2 with Kim Paquette, who drives FSD beta in Rhode Island. She said it works better in California. Elon said we overfit to the San Francisco Bay Area. Tesla is based in Fremont, which is the San Francisco Bay Area. Their headquarters are in Palo Alto. So there's an awful lot of people driving FSD beta in the Bay Area. So FSD has a lot more experience on those roads. So that is arguably a problem with how FSD beta is learning, is it's learning a lot in one area. It's not learning as much in other areas. So that's something that the expanding the beta will help with. Sandy Monroe did a video where he tried out floors. Omar calls it Blues Clues up at the top here. He calls it Blues Clues. It's Blue Cruise. Blues Cruise is a children's TV show joke. I think it comes from Dora the Explorer. So, but apparently Sandy Monroe, I think I saw this. Sandy Monroe said to the Ford guy, "Hey, you should try FSD beta." And Elon responded. He said that he didn't think beta 9.2 was that great. The team is rallying to improve it. And then he said, we're trying to have a single stack for both highway and city streets, but it requires massive neural net training. And Elon said he drove FSD beta 9.3 from Pasadena to LAX and it was much improved. So single stack, what we have now, what FSD beta has right now is there's FSD beta is driving city streets. Navigate on Autopilot is driving the highway. Smart Summit is driving in parking lots. And they are trying to shift to where the same stack, the same software is driving in all environments. It's driving on the highway. It's driving on city streets. It's driving in parking lots. I saw somebody concerned that when a car went from city streets into a parking lot, that there's this moment where the Tesla isn't sure which software it's supposed to use. And if you have a single stack for everything, that problem goes away. I'm not sure that's actually a problem, but some people think it might be a problem. And I'm not clear on whether it really is a problem or not, but I think it was important to address that. And the vision is that the Tesla vision, which is vision only covering everything, that's coming soon. Now, 4 weeks, is it really 4 weeks? Elon says 2 weeks and 2 weeks isn't 2 weeks. Who knows? But they're making really good progress. And we can expect a big jump in FSD performance in a month or two. We'll see a dramatically improve. And then once there's a lot more people driving FSD beta, then the system will be getting a lot more data to learn from. And I kind of wonder if that's an indication of how soon they added a third AI training machine, not Dojo yet, but they added a third AI training machine. Maybe they're starting to test the early Dojo machinery on some data. I don't know. I think they need a lot more Dojo to be able to make that work. But they're going to have a lot more data coming in when they expand the beta. Beta to data. There we go. Okay. One other bit of news. This is from Sawyer Merritt, and I think I saw it from some other people. Tesla buyers who have a standard range plus Model 3 on order got an email. Some of them got an email with an opportunity to buy a different model range, Model 3 Standard Range Plus with slightly less range. Instead of 263 miles of range, it's 253 miles of range. And there was speculation that this was a lithium iron phosphate battery pack rather than the nickel-based battery pack that other Teslas use. Some of the China China-made vehicles are using nickel iron-based batteries. And Elon actually answered this tweet down below when he said our intent with this pack is that product experience is roughly equivalent between nickel and iron. He said he would personally opt for the iron pack because it wants to be charged to 100%, where nickel prefers 90%. With the lithium iron phosphate pack, you can charge your battery to 100% consistently, and so you have more range. Whatever your range is, if you have a 253-mile range, you have 253 miles of range. If you charge a 263-mile range vehicle to 90%, then you're losing 26 miles of range. So your 263 miles becomes 237 miles. So you actually get more range, more useful range out of the iron-based pack than you get out of the nickel-based pack. So interesting stuff. So that's the Tesla news I have for you. I want to dive into the Patreon Q&A. So first of all, again, thanks to the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden, all my Patreon supporters. Real quick on that point about Patreon, I create videos and sometimes the timing doesn't work to make the video public right away. And I provide early access to my Patreon supporters, also to YouTube exclusive content members, channel members who are in the exclusive content level above, also to the warrenredlick.locals.com channel supporters, which is my political channel. I'm trying to provide early access to those three groups. And that just means you get to see a video a couple days early. Maybe, sometimes it's only 8 hours early. Sometimes it's a few days early. I have 2 videos that are on hold right now. There's a video. I just interviewed Dave Lee and a woman named Shogofa, who is a college student in Canada. Dave has this big project and check out Dave Lee. If you don't follow Dave Lee on Twitter or YouTube, please follow Dave Lee. He's been making some videos about this. He's tweeting about this. He is using his platform on YouTube and Twitter to help rescue refugees from Afghanistan. Shogofa's family, they're a persecuted ethnic minority. Dave has helped several families get out of Afghanistan into Pakistan. Now the challenge is help them get from Pakistan to Canada. They're all Canadian The local family members are in Canada. So check him out. The video will be public tomorrow. But like I said, Patreon supporters, exclusive content members, and redlocals.com supporters got early access to that video. I have another video that I'm releasing with James Dauma, just a short version of a previous video, edited down, where we talk about TeslaBot, and that's probably coming Tuesday or Wednesday. So let's go to the Patreon questions. Dev asks, why won't Tesla sue Gordon Johnson? The best lawsuit is no lawsuit. Defamation lawsuits are really hard to do. I think it would really be hard for Tesla to succeed in a lawsuit against Gordon Johnson, and Gordon Johnson probably doesn't have any money. It's pretty much a waste of time for Tesla to sue Gordon Johnson for, how do you measure the damage that he's done to Tesla? Has he cost them any sales? Is it just a share price thing? Maybe a shareholder class action lawsuit against people like Gordon Johnson and Mark Spiegel, but I don't think they have any money. If they shorted Tesla, they lost their money. So what are you going to get from them? You don't sue people who don't have money. It's a basic rule of a lawyer. As a lawyer, I can tell you, you don't sue people who don't have money. So Ken asks, he's interested in the way Tesla is building bigger and bigger neural nets for training and then compacting, shrinking them down to a smaller size to fit in the onboard chip in the car. He wants me to ask somebody for clarification on this point. Okay, so a bigger neural net does not mean larger in size. That's a really important distinction. A bigger neural net might mean more transistors. It might mean more nodes in the chip. But it doesn't necessarily mean the chip is not so big it won't fit in a car, right? It's probably smaller than an iPhone by a lot. So I don't think there's an issue with the size of the neural net affecting it. And I actually asked James Dauma, I think, about this, that the training that's going on is not, so you have the neural net that is being trained in and Dojo or the training computers. And maybe that's a very large set of computers. But the chip in the car has a set of what are called weights. And basically, it's just a series of algorithms applied in the car that when you see this set of pixels, you do this. When you see this set of pixels, you do that. And it's training the car how to react to what pixels come in the cameras. And I don't believe that requires a large chip. Now, there is FSD hardware version 4 coming, probably Q3 of 2022, I'm guessing. And that chip is probably going to have more transistors, but it doesn't mean the chip is going to be a larger piece of silicon. It might be, right? It might be a larger piece of silicon, but it doesn't mean it will be a larger piece of silicon. So, Damien says, Warren, where do you derive your superpowers from? Libertarianism searching for mean work. Where do you get these superpowers from and why? I don't think I have superpowers. I think I'm a reasonably smart guy. I think I'm a reasonably motivated guy. I think I got through life without having any mental health issues or other things that constrain me from succeeding. And I think in particular, somewhere along the way, I got motivated. I would say I got off the couch. A lot of us spend a lot of our time sitting on the couch, watching Netflix, watching Amazon Prime, watching sports, watching news, whatever. And at some point I decided I needed to get off the couch and do something and do more and do more. And really, I mean, I would say Elon Musk has been an inspiration to me that, you know, he had $180 million when they sold PayPal. He could have bought a yacht and sat in the back of the yacht. And instead of living a life of luxury, he invested it all and built 2 new companies and worked his ass off for the next 20, 30 years. And he's not stopping. And I still sit on couches some, and I'm like, well, I think I'm doing too much couch sitting. I need to get off the couch. So I think I don't know. I certainly wouldn't say I have superpowers. I don't get that concept. I know a lot. I've learned a lot. I'm 55 years old. I've been around. I've been using computers since 1977. So, the Commodore 4K PET is the first computer I used. It had 4 kilobytes of RAM. I mean, this is... I don't even know how much more powerful this is than we played a game called Artillery. So, I know how to turn when computers don't work. I know how to turn them off and turn them on again. That appears to be a superpower in the world of information technology. I can look at a computer screen and see that there are different options and try different options, where a lot of people look at a computer screen and if it doesn't do what they want, they're not aware of how to look around the screen. I don't think my superpowers are superpowers. It's just in the IT world, in the computer programming world, I'm underpowered. But compared to people who aren't in that world, it's like, wow, he knows how to turn a computer off and on again, or when to turn a computer off and on again. I don't know. So Damien also asked, and I actually prepared for this question for the video, and there was questions in the chat about this too. When will I have an alpha prototype of the singles car? It's not, I don't call it the singles car, by the way, but the single passenger self-driving EV. When do I have prototypes to show? So thank you, Damien. Damien asks questions a lot. So this is, I'm working with a few engineers to come up with designs for the alpha prototype. So this is one draft, early draft, not really. We're heading towards a CAD design that could conceivably be built. This is just the chassis, not the powertrain. This is not the electronics. The wheels are wheels that I've chosen. I'm trying to decide whether I'm going to stick with the wheels and tires. These are 155/80 R13 tires. Are 22 inches in diameter. I'd like to go to smaller wheels and tires. These are, as far as I can tell, the smallest readily available tires in America. 13-inch wheels. And, my belief is that these wheels and tires will basically last forever. They're rated for 75,000 miles on a car that weighs 3,000 pounds. This is going to weigh 1,000 pounds. So these tires should last forever. So that's one drawing from one engineer, and then this is a movie. This is not the structure. This is it's a very similar layout. The concept of having 6 lithium iron phosphate batteries in the center of the car, and the driver sits on top of them. We're going to shift the driver forward in this design because the angle of the lower leg is wrong. I want the feet, a better angle for the lower leg. So that just gives you some idea what we're doing there. So thank you for the question, Damien. Thank you for the other questions. I think the question was, when will we have a prototype? So I'm hoping that we settle on a CAD design for the chassis by the middle of, what is it now? By October, early October maybe. And then powertrain, I'm still working on powertrain. I've been looking at, I don't think I have it here. There's a EV in China called the Hongguang Mini EV, which is like a 4 or 5 passenger EV that's very, very small. And it's not very fast and doesn't have very much range. But I'm looking at what they're doing in terms of battery pack and motor. I'm trying to figure out what motor they have. I'm pretty sure I figured out their battery pack, roughly, not for certain. I think they're using a 48 volt motor. I think they said they have a 20 kilowatt motor. I think because my vehicle's smaller and more aerodynamic, I think I can go with a 10 kilowatt motor. I got working on a lot of those details. I think I found a motor where one of the challenges, the motor tends to spin at a high RPM, and what you'd really like is for that RPM to match to go right into the rear axle, but it doesn't work because the rear axle, it would make the car go like 250 miles an hour, which wouldn't be safe. So you have to have a transmission to step down the RPMs down to the rear axle. So we're going to have to work that out. But I think I just found a motor that has a lower RPMs, which might be better. I don't need 5,000 RPMs, 3,000 RPMs might be a little better. So we'll see whether that works. I don't know. But I think if we get the chassis design down by early October, and then we get the powertrain done by the end of the year, maybe I have a working alpha prototype middle of next year. And I don't expect to have a production vehicle. Then we go to beta prototype. I don't expect to have a production vehicle for 3 or 4 years. There's no point in having one until we actually have self-driving software out there that's readily available. And it's not going to be a fun vehicle to drive. That's not the goal. The goal is to make it as boring as possible. So anyway, all right, so that's that. Damien also said, Warren, do you ever see any other car company or any other company solving the full self-driving problem besides Tesla in the next 10 years, if ever? Yes. Merchandise, the stainless steel water bottle, and the t-shirt. The t-shirt Elon time should be at the top of the chat. I guess that's up here. And stainless steel water bottle, go to elonbits.com for the t-shirts and the stainless steel water bottle. Yes, I think that other companies will solve the full self-driving problem in the next 10 years. Comma.ai is making progress. Mobileye is making progress. Chinese companies are working very hard on this problem. There's a really good chance that a Chinese company will solve the problem. I don't think Waymo's getting close. I think that any company that's using LiDAR is on the wrong path. But I think the fundamental problem is get a big training computer, get a good chip, put it in a car, put it in a lot of cars, generate a lot of data, and learn from it. I don't think it's going to be that hard for a Chinese company to emulate that model. And I think that's going to happen. I think it's hard for US companies. Western companies are sort of set in their ways. So I'm not sure whether any of them are going to figure it out. Although a startup like Comma.ai seems to be working on it as well. So if Tesla solves full self-driving in 2022, then Comma.ai probably solves it in 2025, 2026. And some Chinese company probably figures it out around then. So that's kind of my target is, okay, 4 years from now, I have a production vehicle and I can buy self-driving software and hardware from Comma.ai or from some Chinese company for, a few $1,000s. And then that actually, or maybe, hopefully less than $1,000. So the cost of my single passenger vehicle doesn't go through the roof. The problem with FSD is I think FSD is going to cost like $10,000, and maybe I can negotiate a deal with Tesla, but I'm not so sure about that. So if I was Tesla, I'm not sure I would make that deal with me. So we'll see about that. Mark asks, he said he sent a message to Elon about Elon gaining 50 pounds, concerned about his health going forward. I see this a lot with people saying that Elon needs to worry about his health. I'm pretty sure that Elon has available to him nutritionists, trainers, whatever he needs. I'm pretty sure that if Tesla, he probably has to get tested by Tesla's board probably insists, and SpaceX's board probably insists that he gets tested regularly by a doctor for, various things. He's healthier than Steve Jobs was. I don't think we have to worry about him pulling a Steve Jobs. He'll be all right. I'm not that worried about it. I don't think he's any less healthy than I am. That's the funny thing about this. Like, is he heavier than me? I don't think so. And I feel pretty healthy. Look, he has bad moments. He doesn't mind people catching him at a bad moment. There's lots of people, you only catch him in a good moment, right? He doesn't mind being caught in a bad moment. So he looks tired sometimes. I mean, if you look at the bags under my eyes, right? I mean, I look tired sometimes, right? David asks, are current advances in Tesla AI being actively used to improve manufacturing, and what would be an example of those improvements be? Could it be used to speed up manufacturing using existing robotic equipment? So no, Elon was asked about that at AI Day by, I think it was by Rob Maurer, and Elon does not, another word for artificial intelligence, at least at this point, is machine learning, and Elon does not think that machine learning is a good answer to the manufacturing issues that Tesla faces in the factories. I don't think it's a never, but right now I don't think that that's something that's going on. I don't think that's a concern for Tesla. Okay, so that's the Patreon Q&A. Let's move on to SpaceX. This was a cool video that just, I think Elon just tweeted this, and Eli Burton, who is Starman, is in the blue plane in the background. They're flying over Starbase. This is, you can see the high bay and different parts of Tesla's facilities at Starbase, Texas. I am going to Starbase in about 2 weeks. I will be live streaming. I forget whether I'm going to be there on a Sunday, but I will be probably doing a live stream from Starbase. I'm going to be at Starbase area. We're staying in South Padre Island, checking out the area, looking for a bunch of different things. Going to shoot some video content, make videos later, but I'll probably live stream at least once from Starbase. Then after that, I am continuing on to Austin, Texas to check out the Gigafactory and other things that Elon has going on in Austin, Texas. I'm hoping to meet up with a friend of mine from college who I have talked to in recent days, but haven't seen in over like 32 years. And we're going to get together. I want to talk to him about my real estate startup, my housing startup. Texas is very favorable zoning laws. Florida, it turns out, I was looking at doing a housing startup in Florida. The zoning laws suck. It's really hard to find a good property to do what I want to do with housing. So I'm going to check out Austin. Small chance, I am thinking about moving to Texas in a couple years. We'll see. I have a kid in high school across the street here, so I can't leave for a couple years. But maybe in a couple years, maybe move to Canaveral, maybe move to Austin. We'll see. Kind of like Canaveral, kind of like Austin. I don't know. Other places are possible. But anyway, I just thought that was a really cool video. Let's watch that again. I don't know if these are actual fighter jets that are military fighter jets, or if these are like privately owned planes. I didn't get the story here, but you can see the tents that they used for construction. You can see the high bay. There was a picture showing the footprint of the next high bay. That there's a double high bay coming. Pretty cool video there. And then more SpaceX news. There was a launch this morning. This is CRS23. This is Cargo Dragon that is delivering cargo to the International Space Station. So this is the launch of the rocket going up. Really cool. This is double speed, by the way. It doesn't go up that fast. I just didn't want it to take too much time in the video here. And then I have the landing as well. A little bit from the rocket looking down. I think there were clouds that interfered with the view of the launch. And then this is the landing. So it's not great video. On the left side, you can see the landing. On the right side, you can see the second stage. And then, it's crappy video, but you won't be surprised. And this is a new drone ship. I forget the name of the drone ship off the top of my head, but they stuck another landing. This is the 90th landing of a Falcon 9 rocket booster, of orbital rocket booster. This is no. Think about this for a second. It's been 5.5 years, almost 6 years, since SpaceX first successfully landed an orbital rocket booster. No one else has landed an orbital rocket booster 6 years later. No one else has landed a rocket booster 6 years later. When people tell you, oh, somebody's going to copy Tesla, oh, somebody's going to copy FSD, somebody's going to copy whatever Elon's doing, they've had 6 years to copy landing an orbital rocket booster, and they haven't done it. I haven't seen anyone try. I know there's a company in New Zealand. I know they had one that sort of parachuted out of the sky, the rocket booster. They may have salvaged it. I'm not sure. They're making some progress, but no, was it Rocket Lab? Rocket Lab, I think, managed to get an orbital rocket booster to come back and sort of hit the water somewhere near where they launched from. But no one has even tried to tried to land an orbital rocket booster on land or on a ship. No one's even close. And I think it's going to be another few years before someone does it, if anyone ever does it. So whenever you hear somebody saying, oh, Tesla doesn't have anything special, there's no moat, anybody can make an EV, anybody can make self-driving software, anybody, Somebody will eventually come up with self-driving hardware and software. They're working on it. I mean, at least that people are trying, right? Comma.ai is trying, Mobileye is trying, Waymo is trying, Zoox is trying. But yeah, well, 9 years. I would say, Carl, that they may have caught up to the 2012 Model S. There probably are other EVs that are at least, like the Porsche Taycan is roughly close to the 2012 Model S. I don't think it has quite as much range, but it's higher performance, costs a lot more money. You know, probably some of the EVs that are out there are close. Audi e-tron or something. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe. But yeah, nope, there aren't many that are a lot better than the 2012 Model S yet. So they're a long way to go. So other SpaceX news, Gwynne Shotwell had commented somewhere. She was at a conference. She was talking about a delay in Starlink launches. Actually, I don't have that in here. This article quoted her as saying that there were going to be liquid oxygen shortages were slowing up the launch calendar. Elon said it's a risk, but not a limiting factor. So far, Elon is saying, no, that's not really holding us up. Shotwell also said that for Starlink satellites, they were waiting for the next generation of Starlink satellites that will have laser interconnects. So the satellites are orbiting Earth, and right now the Starlink satellites communicate down to Earth, and it's like direct. It's not satellite to satellite communications. You know, if you have Earth here and there's two satellites flying overhead, they're only communicating down. Once they have the laser links, they can communicate with each other, and you can have a Starlink in London communicating with a Starlink in New York by bouncing the signal off multiple satellites to come down to New York, rather than having to come up and down and go through the underwater, you know, the ocean fiber optic line that goes through the ocean. And that because light travels faster in a vacuum than it travels in fiber, the connection, the latency on that connection will be faster. Even though it's a longer trip because you have to go up and you have a little bit of bounce back, because the speed of light is twice as fast, you get lower latency by doing that. And it lowers Starlink's cost of, they don't have to pay for using this bandwidth to support the network. They become their own backbone. So that's really big. And then Elon tweeted that Starlink has shipped 100,000 terminals. I think Gwynne Shotwell said they have 500,000 orders. So Starlink is growing fast. Elon listed a whole bunch of countries that they're serving, and they have license applications pending in many more countries. Starlink is growing. Starlink is going to be huge. You know, if you can imagine a million Starlink customers paying $100 a month, call it $1,000 a year, that's $1 billion a year in revenue, and that's just the beginning. That's just the beginning. There's going to be 10 million Starlink customers. There's going to be 50 million Starlink customers. There might be 100 million Starlink customers, and you could be talking about $100 billion a year in revenue for this tiny startup. I think it's coming. I think it's inevitable. So that's really cool stuff. That is the SpaceX news. Short bit on Elon. This kind of relates to SpaceX a little bit and Tesla, but I figured I'd put it in a separate category. Sawyer Merritt, friend of mine from Clubhouse and Twitter, a big figure in the Tesla community. Sawyer tweeted about Rivian's IPO, which I saw other people tweeting about as well, and that they're seeking a roughly $80 billion valuation. I want to note that I looked for this. What they filed with the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, was confidential, so we don't know what exactly they filed. We know there was I think there was a press release saying it happened, but we don't know the details of the IPO yet. Elon says, I don't want to be unreasonable, but maybe they should be required to deliver at least one vehicle per $1 billion of valuation before the IPO. So I think Elon was amused, and there were some tweets back and forth about what Tesla's valuation was after they delivered 500,000 cars, and it was way less than 80 billion. It was like 30 billion. The market cap of Tesla was like 30 billion after they delivered 500,000 total cars. Not 500,000 cars in 1 year, but they had delivered a total of maybe 500,000 cars, and their valuation was like 30 billion. Maybe that's not accurate, but it's in the ballpark of correct. They delivered 100,000 cars, 200,000 cars, and their valuation wasn't 80 billion yet. So we'll see. I am waiting for when that SEC filing becomes public, the IPO filing becomes public, we get a much better idea of what Rivian is seeking and what they're doing. And it may very well be that by the time they do their IPO, they have delivered a vehicle. Rivian, if you don't know, is making pickup trucks and SUVs that are really designed for good off-roading. I think there's hub motors. Each wheel has its own motor. Like even Cybertruck only has 3 motors, so it should be particularly nimble off-road. I think that's a small market. It's more of a traditional shape for a pickup truck. I think they look cool. I hope they succeed. $80 billion valuation seems a little high. I think the Cybertruck might be very, very competitive with Rivian, and it may be hard for Rivian to sell a lot of vehicles, but it's probably better than an F-150 Lightning. We'll see whether they can deliver. Then going back towards SpaceX land, Eric Berger, who wrote the book Liftoff, which I actually have on my nightstand, I'll be reading that. I'm reading Peter Thiel's book. Peter Thiel was one of the PayPal starters with Elon, one of the early PayPal guys with Elon, another billionaire, successful billionaire. He's, I think, was an investor maybe in Facebook, investor maybe in Palantir. So I'm reading his book From Zero to One, and then I'm going to read this book Liftoff by Eric Berger. But Eric Berger is a science and a space reporter, and he says that Blue Origin is attempting to drown NASA and its moon program in lawyers and paperwork, and Elon made a sad face in response to that. And there's another one about this where Elon loves to make fun of Bezos. Apparently Amazon is also trying to stop SpaceX's plan for Starlink. And Elon said, turns out Bezos, which is Spanish for kisses rather than Bezos, Bezos retired in order to pursue a full-time job filing lawsuits against SpaceX. Jeff Bezos, and I want to be clear, I am a Jeff Bezos fan. He's making it hard, right? I own stock in Amazon. I made a ridiculous amount of money on Amazon stock. I bought Amazon stock in 2013 when everybody thought it wasn't worth anything. And I'm up like 13x or 14x on my Amazon stock. Well, Bezos retired from Amazon and recently, and Elon's theory is the reason he retired from Amazon is because he wanted to spend all his time suing Tesla and SpaceX. I don't know, or suing SpaceX. It would be nice if Blue Origin actually like launched an orbital rocket. You know, launch something in orbit. Do that, and you'll get a long way. Anyway, I didn't have a lot more about Elon. I probably shouldn't have made a separate category for that. But really quick, a couple of tweets about that. I probably could have squeezed that into the Tesla and SpaceX categories, made a shorter outline, but that's what I ended up doing. So let's move on to the chat Q&A. So we're about a little more than a half hour in. Let me see. I got to move things around a little bit so I can see the chat Q&A. All right, let's see what question. Who is this Bezos guy? So question for Warren, what are some of the applications for the Tesla bot and how much will the Tesla bot cost? So I have a video coming out in 2 days, Tuesday or maybe Wednesday, with James Douma, where we talked about humanoid robot. I think that to say what are the applications misses the point. It's a general purpose robot. It's for general purposes. It's not for one single purpose. It's for a wide variety of purposes. So could it be used for roofing, for a solar roof? Sure. Could it be used for helping the elderly? Sure. There's a lot of ways that this could be useful. We'll see. Oh, and really quick, I want to again thank Vasa Law from Sweden. Thank the Patreon supporters. Please support this channel on Patreon. Link in the description below. Check out the merch, t-shirts like Elon Time, which is in the top of the chat. The water bottle, Elon. This is very popular, and I got to say, I really like this water bottle. It's insulated. I didn't think I would like it this much. I was actually trying to find a bottled water sponsor. For those who've been watching my live streams for a long time, I was drinking a lot of bottled water. I was drinking Perrier and Pellegrino. Made me burp. So then I was drinking Evian, and I was like, well, Evian should be paying me for this. I tried to reach out to Evian. I tried to reach out to Aquapana, which is another flat water. I didn't get any response. I'm like, well, and then I use this service called Teespring. I'm like, hey, they got a stainless steel water bottle. Why don't I just advertise my own thing? So let's see what we got here. Why am I spreading misinformation about public health on Twitter? So Art, this channel is not for that. So I don't talk about that stuff on this channel generally. So please don't bring that topic up. I'm not going to talk about it. I have a channel on the platform called Locals, which is linked in the description below, where I talk about political topics. I try not to talk about politics on this channel. So I'm not saying never, but I try not to talk about politics. It's not good for the channel. It can lead to censorship, and I just don't need this channel to be censored. Great question, Dragonbox, thank you. Lucid motor trend review thoughts. So I think that was a step forward. You know, I am the world's biggest Lucid critic, apparently, or at least YouTube's biggest Lucid critic. I do think that was a step forward. I've been critical of Lucid for a long time, that no one outside of Lucid has driven the vehicle. Excuse me 1 second. Here you. This is Charlotte. Charlotte wanted to interrupt the video, so she just likes to be in the room with me. So for those who don't know, Motor Trend, a journalist from Motor Trend drove the Lucid Air. Now, it was very limited circumstances. He didn't take it out to a test track. They had a very specific route that he drove it. He did go over 400 miles. It did look like it would reach 500 miles driving if they continued. We don't know what they did with the vehicle to make it do that. We don't know if they slammed extra batteries in it. We don't know if they geared it a certain way. I think that Lucid engineers are talented enough to game the system. They didn't let Sandy Munro drive it. They didn't let somebody look inside to see what was under the hood, so to speak. We don't know. So that I'm a little iffy on that, but still, this was a step. They let someone outside the company drive the vehicle. One of the details was the front suspension, I think, was not dialed in right yet, so they're not ready for production yet. This was in August. So if they still don't have the front suspension right, and this is a car they've been showing off for like 4 years, maybe 5 years, and they still don't have the front suspension right, like 10% off, okay, you know, I don't know if they're going to sell a vehicle this year. And I have a bet going with Ricky from 2-Bit Da Vinci and I think at least one other person that I don't think they're going to deliver. The bet is that if they deliver 100 or more vehicles with more than 450 miles of EPA rated range, I will admit they're for real. If they don't make 100 vehicles or they don't have more than 450 miles of EPA rated range, then Ricky has to admit there's a problem. So I'm giving it a shot. So, Marty Party, I'm actually thinking about making a video about this. Marty Party says, do I think Tesla will start with a $25K compact? Okay, let's be clear. The battery day vehicle, which should be $25,000 at the low end. Do I think they will start with that in the India market now that a factory there seems likely? I do not think there will be a factory in India anytime soon. I think that they are looking at importing vehicles to India to see what the market, to test the market. My impression is that the Indian car market is very, very small. Like really, really small. Like even though it's 1.3 or 1.4 billion people in the country, they're really poor. I mean, they're really, really poor. Like the GDP per capita is $2,000 a year, where ours is like, I don't know, 50 or 60,000 a year. The number of people in India, the share of the population that can afford a $25,000 car is really small. The average selling price of a car in India, which is a small car market anyway, the average selling price of a car in India is like $10,000 or $11,000. The number of cars that are sold over $20,000 is really small. And you know, if the percentage of the population that has a household income of over $30,000 a year, it's like 1% of less. I think it's 0.5% of the population. Is it 0.5%? It's 7 million households have a household income over, maybe 8 million households have a household income over $30,000 a year. $30,000 a year isn't enough to buy a $25,000 car. I don't think. I mean, so I mean, different people have different opinions. Some people think there's a huge under the table black market economy and people have more money. I don't know. Sean asked, do I think Austin factory will produce Model Y with 2170s before 4680s in structural pack? That's hard to say. I think that they will do both, probably 2170s first. I don't think 4680s are that far away. I think they might produce both at the same time until they have enough 4680s to shift the first line, the 2170 line, over to 4680s. I don't know. I mean, I think front and rear castings will already be a big improvement. So we'll see. Romo says, when do I think Tesla will do the next 10x in a short time, like what happened in 2020? I don't know if it will happen that way, but I think Tesla's going to be 850,000, 900,000 vehicles this year. And I think once Austin and Berlin start ramping, so 2022 could be a very big year for Tesla. 10x, I don't know. I think that, well, you saw at the beginning of the video, I said I think they can, if you were watching at the beginning of the video, I predicted, $5,000 a share in 2024. That's not a 10x from today. So I don't think we're going to see a 10x in a year like we did in 2020. It's if the market sees where it's going and they see it's not just 2023 and 2024, if they're looking out to 2030, then it would make sense to bid Tesla up higher. Really a PE ratio of 50 is low. Maybe the PE ratio should be 100, and then you would have a 10x. But I don't think that happens in 2022. I think we're going to see a significant jump in the share price in 2020, but I'm so bad at making short-term stock price predictions. The only thing I'm worse at is election predictions. Why is Tesla applying to sell electricity to Texas, and will they try to expand this to other states? I think I read that they are already doing this in other places. I think what they're doing is they're creating megapack clusters, and they're using them to back up the grid, and then they will probably add solar and then use the solar to sell energy to the grid. Why wouldn't they? I mean, if you don't have a customer to do it and you have the production, why not do it yourself? Can we tell the bot to do anything to break the law? I'm not sure how legal consequences are going to be for the bot. Let's see. If factory in Nevada is only 1/3 complete, when will it be completed and what will be built there? So I don't know if the Gigafactory in Nevada will ever grow to its full size. The reason for that is Tesla figured out that the surrounding population for Reno, Nevada, Sparks, Nevada is not very large. And it may not be enough to support a factory of the size they're trying to build. So the reason they chose Austin, Texas, the reason they chose Shanghai in China, the reason they chose Berlin in Germany is they are places with large, well-educated populations, and they are places people want to live. SpaceX is actually having a related problem at Starbase, that Starbase is a good place to test the Starship. It is a good place to test the production methods, but ultimately it may not be the best place to have your spaceport for heavy-duty usage, because it's a little bit close to South Padre Island, Texas, and there's not a lot of population and infrastructure around Starbase to support a large industrial site, where Canaveral has been the base for space launches for 60 years, and it's close to Orlando, Florida, so people want to be in Orlando because of Disney. Thank you, Jermaine, for your support. Very much appreciated. Tesla to the moon, yes. So I think that's something to think about when you think about where is Tesla going to locate a factory. Like, all right, let's suppose Tesla is going to do a Gigafactory in India. Where in India would you locate it? You want to locate it where people want to be. So some of my friends say it should be there's a particular part of India where they have a lot of car manufacturing. I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I think Bangalore, Hyderabad are places that are probably more attractive to live, but I don't know enough about India to answer that question. So my impression is Bangalore is sort of like the high-tech center of India, or a high-tech center of India, and with Hyderabad being up there and nearby. So that seems like it would make sense to me. Forgive me if you're from India and I'm mispronouncing the names. I said Bangalore, Bengaluru, Hyderabad. I don't know if I got them right. I apologize. At least I've heard of them. Compared to most Americans, I think I'm doing pretty good. So Lucid Vapo Air. Let's see. What else we got? Lucid Hot Air. India still needs batteries. This is a good location to get talent and materials. They could make 100,000 cars a year. So here's the problem, Carl. Carl is a moderator. Thanks to the moderators for helping out. Carl's also a channel member. Thank you for supporting the channel, Carl, in multiple ways. He says maybe they could make 100,000 cars a year there and 150 gigawatt hours of batteries to serve that area. So here's the problem. I could see energy storage because India has an unreliable grid. I could see solar because India is big on solar. 100,000 cars a year. When has Tesla made a factory that only made 100,000 cars a year? Right? I mean, their smallest factory makes 600,000. Well, smallest factory right now makes 450,000 cars a year, but ultimately their smallest factory right now, they're scaling up to 600,000, 750,000 cars, and the newer factories are scaling up to 2 million cars a year. So it doesn't really make sense for Tesla to build a factory to make 100,000 cars a year. The casting machine is going to produce too many castings for that. It would be wasted. So that's the challenge. Like I said, I might make a video in a couple weeks talking about why I don't think India will have a gigafactory for cars. For batteries, a terafactory. But and then the problem with for energy storage, you're not going to want to use nickel-based cells. So maybe you make a battery factory and you export the batteries to wherever your gigafactory is to make cars, but that doesn't really go with how Elon likes to do things, because then you're moving the molecules too far. I don't see it. I don't want to say it's impossible. And if India's economy grows a lot, then maybe it makes sense. Jex Kuhl says, which model will be the first to get a whole casting instead of splitting front and rear? Well, I think the battery day vehicle could be a single piece casting for the whole chassis, or a much larger casting that avoids splitting front and rear, and then you drop the structural pack in the middle of it. I think. I think it's the size of the gigacasting machines may not be big enough. They're doing 6-ton or 600-ton, I forget, 6,000-ton, whatever. They're doing these big casting machines for the Model Y front and rear. They have a larger casting machine reportedly for the Cybertruck. The size of the gigacasting machine to do a single piece for the whole chassis would be tough. I don't know if it's going to happen. David Kinghorn says, I think your pod car would do well in India, having been there twice. India is a target market for the single passenger vehicle. India, Egypt, particularly the poorest countries where the cost of transportation is really high for people. If we can get the cost of transportation for them down, number one, it makes their lives better. Number two, it shifts them from two-stroke engines on a moped or scooter or tuk-tuk or whatever we're calling these vehicles, to a clean, non-polluting electric vehicle, and hopefully we can feed that with a clean electric energy generation, clean grid, and clean their air. This is something people don't talk about. People talk about climate change. What about clean air? What about cleaning up the pollution in the air? People don't realize how many people die every year from coal dust and coal pollution and diesel polluting the air. Let's get rid of air pollution and make their lives better, and then lower their cost of transportation and make their lives better again. And then maybe India's economy can grow enough that they can afford a gigafactory. They can afford enough Teslas, we build a gigafactory. So at Battery Day, Elon made a big deal about cutting costs and extending range. Why are people now saying that Berlin Model Y will be the same price and same range that it is now? I haven't seen anyone say that, Matthew, and I don't think that's true. I think that my prediction, for what it's worth, my prediction is that the early Model Ys coming out of Berlin and Texas will be high performance models that will be significantly more expensive. Maybe the 2171 will be a little bit different. Once they're doing 4680 Model Ys, they're going to weigh 500 pounds less than a current generation Model Y. And it's going to be an amazing performer. And it'll cost less to make, and they'll be using less batteries, and it'll still be a better performer. So I think we're going to see maybe even a $70,000 Model Y high performance. That's out there, just my prediction. I don't know. So let's see. If the subsidies in the new budget go through, does everyone making an EV right now sell out of everything they get manufactured? Well, I saw a Mazda today that's going to have 100 miles of range. I don't know who they're selling that thing to. I don't know. My other bet is with the E for Electric guy. No. I don't remember if I bet him or not. Maybe. I think there's maybe a few people. I don't remember if that was part of the conversation. Diversifying divestments into biotech, so not all Tesla. Look at Kathy Wood's biofund. So I'm a little fuzzy on whether biotech's really going to succeed or by how much. I think if we can invest in Neuralink, that's biotech I believe in. I think the DNA startups, I'm not sure. I feel like the mRNA, DNA technology, whatever that they're working on, genetic engineering, it's been 10 years away for a while, and I think it might be 10 years away for at least another 10 years. I'm not convinced that that's really happening. I love Kathy Wood. I'm an investor in ARKK, their biggest fund. But when I have free cash to invest, I'm also an investor in Gerber Kawasaki's ETF GK. But when I invest in the future, if I have cash to invest, I pretty much put it in Tesla. I don't see, if I could invest in Boring Company or Neuralink, I would. SpaceX, if it wasn't locked up in some ridiculous fund that was too expensive, I would. Jupiter James says, question, Tesla van by 2023, question mark. If so, which factory? I actually see two vans in Tesla's future. And these are, I don't think 2023. I think 2024 at the earliest. Maybe 2023. I see two vans coming. One that seems really obvious to me is a van based on the Cybertruck platform, but that's going to wait until Cybertruck scales. So Cybertruck's not really going to scale till pretty much through 2023. So maybe there's a Cyber van in late 2023, early 2024. Maybe not. I don't know if it makes sense for Tesla to make it. The other van that makes sense to me is the Battery Day vehicle. I think there's going to be multiple configurations. So there'll be a hatchback for commuting, for commuters, and then I think there might be a small minivan or cargo van based on the battery day vehicle. I think that could make a lot of sense. Kind of like, what's the little Sprinter? There's like a Ford Sprinter that's smaller, Sprinter Express or something like that. I think there's a little Nissan cargo van. I think that could really fit in that slot and be really useful. Okay. Let's see. I'm looking for questions here. Hoping to get some feedback with Elon Fam, Tesla bot server, and Tesla car hop. So I don't think that it makes sense to use Tesla bot. Not never, but I don't think the first use for Tesla bot is a restaurant server. Elon said boring, repetitive, and dangerous. And restaurant server is generally not a dangerous job. I mean, there's some neighborhoods where it might be dangerous, but in general, I don't think that's a dangerous job. And I think, I don't know if it's quite that boring and repetitive being a server in a restaurant. I'm not, as a car hop or whatever. Paul M says, Hyperchange says 4680 cells are delayed slightly. Sound like some kinks need to be worked out. Thoughts? I don't think he said anything new. I think that first of all, I'm not sure where Ghali's getting his information. That's Galileo Russell from the Hyperchange channel. I got motivated. I like Ghali. I think he's a great channel. I encourage people to watch it. I watched a lot of his videos, and that inspired me in part to create this channel. Not to create the channel, but to make videos like this. I don't think he said anything that was new. That's the only thing he said that was new was that maybe they've achieved an 80% yield, which is much more than expected. But there's this problem with the rollers, which Drew Baglino already talked about, so that wasn't new. M says, didn't Sandy ride in Faraday Future? I haven't seen that. Romu says, I wonder what battery the Tesla bot will use. Probably there will be variants. I think that's pretty clear that Tesla bot will use nickel-based cells because weight will matter. 4680 seems likely. I was actually thinking they do, instead of a structural battery pack, maybe they do a spinal battery pack, and the spine of the robot is made out of battery cells. I'm not sure they'll use a spinal, they'll have a spinal column the way humans do, but it kind of would make sense to have 4680 cells serving as like vertebrae. I don't know. I don't know how many batteries they're going to need. You know, if a EV that weighs 4,000 pounds needs a 60 kilowatt hour pack, then a robot that weighs 125 pounds probably going to need a 5 kilowatt hour pack. Maybe a 2. I don't know. Maybe a 2 kilowatt hour pack is going to be enough. It's a tough question. I mean, my vision for my EV, my pod car, is going to be like a 8 kilowatt hour pack. I would think the bot would need less than that. So 5 kilowatt hours, 3 kilowatt hours, 2 kilowatt hours. It's a good question. I don't know the answer. I think we're going to find that out. I think we're looking at prototype in 22, maybe 23. And once we have a prototype, then, you know, go to production in 24 or 25 and really not get to volume until 25, 26. So I think Tesla bot's a ways away from having a meaningful impact on share price. Going out to 2030, yeah, that could be a big deal. Question, is Mobileye very close behind Tesla FSD and can reach FSD level 4 or 5 first? From Samson. No, I don't think Mobileye is very close. I don't think Mobileye has the right data. I don't think they're generating the right data. I don't think they're generating the right data in the right volume. I could be wrong, but I don't see Mobileye being close. Let's see. All right, let me go down to the bottom here. Do I agree with Sandy that the US government is actively working against Tesla? I agree with Sandy Monroe that parts of the US government are actively working against Tesla. I think there are members of Congress who are actively critical of Tesla and Elon Musk. I think there are parts of government agencies that may be actively opposing what Tesla and SpaceX are doing. I don't think it's a big deal. I think mostly Tesla's doing okay. I think there are parts of the government that interfere with a lot of things. I don't know if if overall I would say the US government is not particularly targeting Tesla. I will say that I get a lot of comments critical of the Chinese government, like the Chinese government is a danger to Tesla, and I would say Giga Shanghai went up fast. Giga Shanghai went up faster than Giga Berlin. It might go up faster than Giga Texas, and Texas is about as friendly a place as you can get to build a factory. So, but I don't see it. Thank you, JJ, for your support. There needs to be a Mechazilla tea in your shop. They will sell many once. I don't. So what I find for the t-shirts is if they have words on them, they sell, and if they have images on them, they don't sell as much. The machine that builds the machine t-shirt does sell, and that has a big picture. I'm not sure. I don't have a vision for Mechazilla yet to make that work as a shirt. I'm not saying it doesn't work as a shirt. I have a Robot Revolution shirt that I really like that that doesn't sell that many shirts. I recommend it. I think it's great, but and I should say, by the way, with the shirts, there's the classic version, which is fine if you're not going to wear the shirt a lot. My personal opinion is that the higher grade shirts, the premium and the tri-blend, they're going to last a lot longer. The fabric is going to hold the pattern a lot longer. They're more comfortable. That's what I'm wearing. I think I'm wearing a premium shirt right now. I kind of like this one and the tri-blend. They have a little bit of different feel. The tri-blend is softer, but maybe it feels like it's a little more artificial fabric. I don't know. I like them both. And they cost a little bit more. I don't make much more profit. I make about the same profit on them. So I personally started buying tri-blend and premium rather than buying the classic shirts. So I do pay for them. I don't get them for free. I don't pay the same price as you guys do, but I pay for them. I usually give discounts to Patreon supporters and YouTube channel exclusive content channel members. Sean says, do I agree with Elon Tesla releasing FSD beta to wider group of before the software is out further in the March of 9s? I think Elon knows more about it than we do, Sean. It's that simple. I think that if Elon and the team are confident that it's good enough, and keep in mind, FSD beta means it's still a beta, and that means people who are signing up to use it are going to get extensive instruction on how to use it and how to be careful. And if you have FSD beta, you got to watch it. You can't just ride in it. You're agreeing you're going to watch it closely. Every once in a while, it will do something really bad. And you need to be ready. Andre Karpathy said that. It's great, but every once in a while it does something really bad, and you need to catch it, and that moment will help train it. You sign up for FSD beta, you're signing up to participate in training the software. You'll like it, it'll be fun, but it's not that special. JJ asked a question. Do I plan on doing a stock prediction episode with the bot in the future? Yes, I do plan on doing that. I have done some thinking about it. I think it's hard to call, but that sounds like a really good idea. I have been thinking about it. Maybe you're inspiring me to do more on that, but I've got a lot going on in the next month. Just, people get it. I have a couple videos coming out the next couple days. I'm getting ready to go to Starbase in mid-September and Austin, Giga Texas in mid-September. Got stuff going on in my personal life. For those who follow me, I just successfully brought my mom to an assisted living facility in Sebring, Florida, which is about 3 hours from here. Long story why. So far, she seems to be doing well. I'm hoping to visit her on Friday. My wife got a job. She's working Monday to Thursday, starting Monday. So that's probably doesn't affect me much at all. But, a lot of different things going on in the personal life that are... I'm still on my clip. I'm making 2-3 videos a week. Two videos a week plus the Sunday live stream. We'll see. Will stock be down tomorrow? I don't make short-term stock price predictions. Who knows? Andy Onion says, could Tesla bot drive a car? Eventually Tesla bot could drive a car, but it wouldn't be something that wouldn't be something I would design it for. That's not the point. Thoughts on joint venture with Sawyer on your Tesla Elon SpaceX themed shirts? I think Sawyer can probably find bigger YouTubers than me to make that partnership with. I think he has his own channel. Let me see. Any Tesla stock prediction for early 22? I don't make short-term stock price predictions. Early 22 is too short-term. I think that, look, my personal valuation, not a target, not a price target. My personal valuation for Tesla today is like $5,000 a share. I think Tesla's going up to $50,000 a share by 2030. Like, if you could buy something for $5,000 today that would be worth $50,000 in 9 years, you would buy it, right? That's a heck of an investment. Gareth says someone should make stainless steel Starship models and Cybertrucks. I think people are making them, but that's not something that fits with me. When will I visit the Texas factory? It's mid-September. Mid-September I'm going. And then we're scoping out to see potentially whether we're going to rent a house for around the time of the orbital test launch, and then, like, rent a big house and have a bunch of people in the Tesla Twitter, Tesla Clubhouse, Tesla YouTube community able to stay in one place. I don't want to call it a party house. It won't be a party house. We're bringing people from outside, talking to some people about that, but I want to go scope it out in mid-September to make a judgment, and maybe we'll rent a house for October or November or something like that. Eric Berger thinks that the orbital launch won't happen until November at the earliest. We're waiting for the FAA approval. Seems very likely that SpaceX will be ready before the FAA is ready. Let's see. Thoughts on China's... I just answered this question. Active789 says, Warren, thoughts on China stealing Tesla's technology? Active789, has China landed an orbital rocket booster yet? No. Has China made an EV as good as has China made an EV as good as the 2012 Tesla Model S yet? No. What do you mean stealing? What technology are they going to steal? It's not technology. It's a business model. It's innovating with extreme urgency. Tesla's not sitting still. If you decide you're going to copy what Tesla's doing today and you're going to get there in 2 years, you know, you're probably not going to get all the way there, and you're really not going to get there for 3 years, and then you're going to be 3 years behind Tesla. But Tesla's actually, you know, innovating faster than everybody else, so they're really going to be 5 years ahead. Andy Onion says, are the same anti-Tesla government people anti-SpaceX, or is it a different bunch of vested interests? I think it's a little of both. I mean, certainly the Robert Reiches and AOCs and Bernie Sanders of the world, they're just anti-Elon. They're anti-Jeff Bezos too. They're anti-whoever. They're anti-anybody that succeeds and makes people's lives better. But I think there's also, within each segment of the government, they're driven by lobbyists. Matt Burns says, does Elon regret doing the Semi? I don't think so. I think Semi is coming soon and it's looking good. It's just taking longer because they don't have the 4680 cells. Samson says, if Shanghai increases production, Texas and Berlin start production this year, will 1 million units be achievable? I don't think 1 million units is achievable this year. I think 900,000 units is a stretch. It's really kind of in order to reach 900,000 units, Texas and or Berlin really have to start kicking up production. Texas is looking like they're getting close to production. I think there was a picture of a Model Y that looked like it came off a production line with another one coming behind it. I think we're going to see production start of Model Y in October, and we're going to see deliveries from the Texas Gigafactory November or December. Will that be 10,000 cars? Probably not, and that's not a material difference. You know, how fast is Shanghai increasing production? I think Fremont might be increasing production, and people don't see that coming. So we'll see. Let's see. Can I replace my wife with Tesla Bot? You can do whatever you want. I think Tesla Bot's going to be pricey, but probably not as expensive as a wife. Depends on your wife. Bot, put batteries in lower legs, keep center of mass lower. That might make sense. I don't know the answer to that question. I'm not sure. That's something for the engineers to figure out. Marty Party says, did you realize that every gigawatt of batteries equals about $1 billion in revenue? I think that's 600 million. I think I calculated 600 million per gigawatt in my battery revenue model. So if Tesla uses 150 gigawatts next year, that should be 150 billion in revenue in 2022. Yeah, I think my revenue I think I have $600 per kilowatt, which works out to $600 million per gigawatt. And then on top of that, if FSD kicks in, Robotaxi kicks in, other types of revenue kick in, and you know, Megapack is only like $300 million a gigawatt hour. So it depends which product they're selling. There's variation. Roadster is a much higher dollars per kilowatt. You know, Model S and X are higher dollars per kilowatt. The battery day vehicle is probably going to be lower dollars per kilowatt. I'm not sure about that. What's going on with my nose? Something wrong with my nose. Do you really see Apple entering the Do I really see Apple entering the EV sector in any capacity? No. Apple's not building EVs. Not going to happen. Saren for Tesla Bot. How about a lawyer's paperwork? Is that boring and repetitive? Sometimes it is boring and repetitive. I don't know that Tesla Bot's going to be doing lawyer paperwork anytime soon. There's some, you know, like foreclosure paperwork, but that's not paperwork that's done by a bot. That's paperwork that there is a lot of documents that are generated by databases in the legal world. We had our own custom database for my law firm when we were doing a high volume of traffic tickets. We created our own database that included document generation, but we didn't need a bot to do it. Jupiter James says, question, Tesla Bot for last mile delivery, car to doorstep. Not exactly. If you watch my old conversation with James Dalma, which will be I think that will be in the converse. No, I don't. I'm not sure if we included that in the part that's coming up this week. Why would you bother with the car? Why don't you just have the robot on a scooter? Then you're moving a lot less mass, so you use a lot less energy. You don't need a whole car to do deliveries if you have a bot. A bot can ride a scooter and do deliveries. How about that? There's a D1 t-shirt from SMR. Cool. I'll have to take a look at that. Hope Apple makes a car at a $4 million price point just to show how incredible. Yeah. Let's see. Just looking for questions. Have I heard anything about boring tunnels in Texas? There is a channel called Boring Revolution with Will Bradbury. He just did a video where he talked about all the projects that Boring Company has been talked about and that they're actually getting close to doing. So he had some details on what he thinks is happening in San Antonio and Austin. I did hear from someone in Austin. I'm trying to remember the name of the town. There's I think it's like sort of southeast of the city. Cypress Creek or something like that. That Boring Company bought like 70 acres out there and they're doing work out there. So my impression will be they do a tunnel from there to Giga Texas and from Giga Texas to the state capitol and from state capitol up, I think it's I-35. Could really help city of Austin. Johnny Q says, when do I believe the 25K car will be launched? Prototype. I think that we're going to see at least a mock-up of the Battery Day vehicle or vehicles in mid-2022. I think they will. It's really going to be more about the factory, that the vehicle will be geared for production and the factory will actually be more important than the vehicle. We're all stuck on vehicles because we all want to drive it or we all want to ride in it. The manufacturing is actually more important, so I think that's going to be a much bigger detail. JJ says, maybe someone already asked this, but do you plan... Oh, I already answered that. Let's see. I don't know. Okay. How many gigafactories do I see being built in total from Kayla? So... whatever we have right now, plus at least 3 more for the Battery Day vehicle, China, Shanghai, Berlin, and Texas. It depends how many vehicles those gigafactories are going to produce. If they're going to produce 4 million a year, then you only need 3 of them to get to 12 million vehicles, and maybe you do one more and you're getting over 20 million vehicles a year and you've probably got enough. There's also terafactories for batteries. I think they're going to be built along with the gigafactories. Suppose we're going to need to see a gigafactory for Megapack and a gigafactory for Powerwall, or maybe one gigafactory to do both. So I think we're looking at least 4 or 5 more gigafactories beyond what we see, and maybe a little bit more than that. Depends on how productive they are. Brian Roshetsky, will the first robot laws happen when people start trying to kick over the Tesla bot while it rides by on a scooter? I don't see why we need new laws for that. If you're vandalizing a machine, somebody's property, then there's already liability for that. Brent Banks says, what regulations or limitations will we put on bots to keep them from committing crimes or doing immoral things for their owners? I think we already have laws for this. I don't know why people obsess about this. We already have laws for it. Amit says, when am I planning a new model which includes Tesla bot? Probably October. I don't think I'm going to get to the Tesla bot economic model in September. I think I need time to stew on it. I need to go see some other things. I have an idea for a totally different series of videos I'm going to do related to towing, Tesla's towing. I think that's an interesting topic a lot of people are going to care about. Will Battery Day vehicle be built in separate factory? Yes. I mean, they might be built in the same location as the current factories, but they will be separate factory buildings. The whole factory is going to be redesigned for this. Jeff Roberts has videos with aerial boring footage day 402, for example. I'm not sure what you mean, Thaddeus. Footage of what? What is aerial boring? I mean, we've seen Proofrock 2 is out. There's something... Boring Company tweeted an image of Proofrock 2, which is a next generation tunnel boring machine. How much will the 25K car really cost? Great question. So I actually think it will cost Tesla less than $25,000 to build it, probably $20,000 or less to build it. There will probably be a bare bones model sold for about $25,000, but the price could go up because there's been a lot of inflation. And I think there will be varying vehicles built on that platform, and some of them will be significantly more than $25,000. Thank you for your support. Planeta Tierra. Planeta Tierra, is that planet Earth? Is Elon thinking about building a passenger drone? I have seen no indication that Tesla is going to build a passenger drone. No. How the heck is Ford getting away with saying they're leading the electric revolution? God knows. Matt Senko says Andy Onion says Giga Antarctica. I don't think so. Won't training data for Tesla bot have huge privacy issues? Maybe. Maybe. I mean, if it's walking on a public street, I don't see why it would. If it's in your home, then you would have to agree to let the data from its use in your home be used for training. But it's not going to be... The way the training works, it's not like the videos are sent up for humans to look at primarily. It's sent up to go straight into Dojo to do training. I think their goal is to have humans involved in as little in the process as possible. Unless you're worried about Dojo spying on you, which I would not be worried about. Should the Cybertruck be amphibious and have a frunk like the 150 the Ford F-150 Lightning, so all power to grid and power outlets back and front? So I think Cybertruck will probably float, but I don't know if I would call it amphibious. I don't think it's going to have a trunk like the Ford F-150 Lightning because there's just not enough room there for it. And I think the frunk for the F-150 Lightning is cute, but not aerodynamic and not particularly useful. I mean, it's useful if you're going to have a tailgate, but if, you can put stuff in the back of the pickup. I don't see how much you gain by putting it in the front. Any chance Tesla will change business model to reduce initial cost, price to battery cost, have to rent the battery and pay for charging? I don't think they're going to do a deal where you rent the battery. No, I don't think they're going to do that. I don't think they're changing the business model to reduce initial cost. They're improving manufacturing and improving engineering of vehicles so they can improve manufacturing more so they can get the initial price of the vehicle down. They're reducing the cost of batteries to get the price of the vehicles down. They're doing a lot of that. Andy Onions asks, Giga South America ever? By the way, I have a video on the channel where I talk about where I think Gigafactories might be located. And Giga Brazil, I do think Giga Brazil is pretty likely. Mark Scott asks, thank you for your support, Mark. Any advice on what the best place buy Tesla stock? I don't know what you mean by your question. I hold my stock in Fidelity Investments. I think Fidelity Investments, Vanguard, Schwab, TD Bank. I think TD Bank has one. I think any online stock trading company is good that I'm aware of. I don't know enough about Robinhood to talk about it. I've personally been very happy with Fidelity over the years. And I'm talking about over 20 years that I've been with Fidelity. I think that if you want to buy, in addition to that, low-cost mutual funds, I think Schwab might have a slight edge on Fidelity and Vanguard for that. But Fidelity, Vanguard, Schwab, those are three that I think of first when I think about where I'm going to buy, where I'm going to hold my accounts. And I just happen to use Fidelity sort of as a legacy of that's how it was when I got there. Active789 says, when will 4680 be in every new car out of Texas and Berlin? I don't know how to answer that question. I think middle of 22. It may be that they decide to make lithium iron phosphate batteries. I think Cybertruck, maybe even dual motor, will use lithium iron phosphate cells. Gary Itano says, didn't AI Day state that all car to dojo data was anonymized? Yeah, I almost think it's like automatically, like there's so much data. What would be the point of trying to spy on people? The volume of data that's generated, they're not just taking all the data for the heck of it. They're taking the data for the purpose of making it drive better. Would Cybertruck be more aerodynamic driving in reverse? I don't think so. I'm very interested in the aerodynamics of Teslas and trailers for Teslas. I think, and for my single passenger vehicle, I'm very, very interested in the aerodynamics. I was hoping I was going to get the height of my single passenger vehicle down to 4 feet, but I think I'm going to be stuck with 5 feet. So my frontal surface area is going to be like 15 square feet, or even the Hongguang Mini is like 25 or 30 square feet. I think it's 25 square feet. No, I think it's 30. It might be 30 square feet. So I'm really reducing the frontal surface of the area of the vehicle and making it more aerodynamic. So I'm really into aerodynamics right now. Any predictions of the price tag for Tesla bot? I think Short run, it's expensive. Long run, when they're producing at scale, I think $10,000 is a good ballpark price. I think the other issue is, what's the pricing model for Tesla Bot? Is it, do you charge $10,000 for the bot and it comes with everything? Or do you charge $10,000 for the bot and then there's software upgrades and modules that you can download? Do you pay $5,000 and pay extra for all these features? I think there's a subscription for to AI Vision to go along with the bot. A lot of different ways. Is it a lease model where Tesla owns the bots and leases them out, or Home Depot buys them and leases them out? And you bring home a bot with you to do the work with you when you're doing work. A lot of different ideas. I think it's an open question what's going to be the most effective, and I don't know if Tesla knows the answer yet. Jaga says, should Tesla invest excess cash into SpaceX, the Boring Company, or Neuralink? No, that's not the role of a company. I don't think that's an appropriate role for the company to do that. I think Tesla might buy, I could see Tesla buying a chip fab to make chips for cars, but even that, I don't think it's going to happen. Let's see. Yeah, Fidelity has great customer service. Thoughts on the pics of possible Model Y test vehicles out of Texas? I think I already talked about that. I think that they're going to production. We're in late August now. They get production down in September. Hopefully they go into production mid-October and start delivering vehicles late November, early December. Start ramping. And, maybe they can get Berlin going by then too. Next, this is Samson says, question, next window to Mars is 2022 December. Elon is definitely sending a Starship, right? Complete or not. I think the next window is earlier than December. I think the window for leaving to Mars is probably more like June of 2022. Don't hold me to that. I'm not 100% sure. But it's every 26 months, and I think we're still in even years for 2 more cycles. So I think it's more like June right now is the next window. And I don't think Elon is sending I don't think they'll be ready to send a Starship for the 2022 window. I think 2024 they will be sending more than one Starship to Mars. That's my guess. That Elon's probably trying to get everything done. Innovate with extreme urgency. I think I need a t-shirt that says innovate with extreme urgency. How about that? Write that down. Innovate with extreme urgency. What do you think? Innovate with is that a t-shirt? I don't know if that's a t-shirt. No, right here. Innovate with extreme urgency. I think that could be a t-shirt. Or just extreme urgency. Oh, I like the innovate in it, but maybe it's better with just extreme urgency. Elon time. Let's see. Recurring income model for Tesla bot. I think so. Say Berlin miraculously starts production this year. Can Tesla make 1 million this year? No. Tesla will not produce 1 million vehicles this year. I'm fairly confident of that. Oh, Todd Foster, I love this question. Thank you for asking. Can 4680 cells be lithium iron phosphate? Will they be, if not now? So let's say it a little bit differently. Can lithium iron phosphate cells be made in cylindrical format? Yes. I did a video a while back. I don't even know if I could find it in my channel, where there was a guy who was showing a cylindrical lithium iron. Part of the video was this guy comparing a lithium iron phosphate cell with a nickel-based cell. I think it was a nickel cadmium cell was the other cell, and they were both cylindrical, and the iron phosphate cell was larger. I think iron phosphate cells work very well in a large cylindrical format, and I think it might actually be larger than 4680. I could see Elon had talked about going to reducing the number of formats and reducing the number of chemistries. I could see a lithium iron phosphate cell in a cylindrical format. Maybe it would be 4680. Maybe it would be 5090. Maybe it would be 6095. Who knows? I think there's definitely potential for that. Did AI Day change my time frame? This is from JJ about when FSD will be robotaxi ready. I don't think it changed it a lot. I mean, I believe that we may see FSD go live to the general public before the end of this year. If Elon is saying that FSD beta will go broad by the end of September, which is what that 4 weeks adds up to, is mid to late September. Really, it's a question of, well, yeah, I think that they're expecting that Tesla FSD will be better than human before Dojo goes live. And that Dojo will make it much better than that. So I think there's a chance that FSD still goes live by the end of this year and that the Robotaxi network starts next year. And I didn't see anything to change my vision of that. So Michael Whitfield says 975 watching, only 245 likes. I see 952 right now, but yeah, please smash the like button if you like my videos. I actually don't think that hitting the like button makes that big of a difference, but I certainly appreciate the likes. I think sharing the video with your friends or sharing my other videos with your friends accomplishes a lot more. But commenting, it surprises me. And on Facebook, getting engagement on a Facebook page, getting comments really helps a post. But I think the only thing that affects YouTube videos is how many people click to watch it and how long they watch it. Everything else is trivial. Ryan says, how good were you at Pinewood Derby car? Me and my Vietnam veteran father would win every time. I never had a Pinewood Derby car, so I don't know the answer to that question. We're going to have to move the bot's arms unless you buy FSD. I don't get that. Tesla really should do a chip foundry if making bots, right? That is I don't think it makes sense for Tesla to do a chip foundry, but I think if the problem continues, then maybe. R. Dotton says, what if you want a blank bot? I don't think they would sell blank bots. I think they want to make money from selling the AI vision software. Any ideas on which Tesla car would be the best for robo-taxis? I think the battery day vehicle is going to be the best vehicle for robo-taxi. I think that the robo-taxi world is going to be complex. So if you were just commuting from point A to point B, then the battery day hatchback will be the ideal vehicle. If you are towing something like a trailer or a boat, then Cybertruck is going to be the best robo-taxi. If you are taking your kids to college, let's say you're sending your kids to college and you got 5 kids and all their stuff, then Cybertruck without a trailer could be a really good vehicle for taking all the stuff up to college. Or Cybervan. I think rather than think about the robo-taxi network being one type of vehicle, I think we should think about the robo-taxi network as a diverse group of vehicles that serve different needs. The airport run with the family of 3, Model Y looks pretty good for that. Regular commuting, Model 3, battery day commuter vehicle, who knows? Oh, I love this question. Kayla Funtime says, would Tesla making an RV be worth it for them? I actually asked Mike Levine from Ford why they don't make an RV. And I think the answer is that the RV market is very, very low volume. He gave a different answer, I think, a little bit. There's really high profit potential per vehicle in the RV market for the car companies or for Tesla. But the volume of vehicles is such a low volume that it doesn't really make sense for them. They're trying to sell a million F-150s. Maybe they would sell 10,000 RVs. It doesn't reach the scale that it makes sense. Now, I think Tesla making a cargo van that could be converted to an RV makes a lot of sense. A Class C RV. I think Tesla making a semi that could be used for a Class A motorhome makes a lot of sense. I think Tesla it's possible Tesla's going to make a trailer. I don't think they're going to make it an RV trailer. I don't think. It may just be a basic trailer, and then it just ends up being the people, when they get an RV, they want it really, really customized to a lot of detail. And, there's so many different variations. Does it really make sense? I think it makes sense, honestly. I would like to see them do it, but I think a lot of bright minds have thought about this and they have figured out it doesn't make sense. Let's see. Beacon says, I think a chip foundry could really solidify Tesla's position of being a leader. I think that, I think that a chip foundry would make sense for Tesla to be more vertically integrated, which is something Tesla has tried to do. So that would make sense for that reason. But in terms of being a leader, Tesla's already solidified as a leader. I don't think they need that. It would make the chip companies crap their pants if Tesla had bots making the chips. They don't need bots making the chips. A Tesla chip factory would... I think it's actually that the battery day vehicle will be designed so that it doesn't need so many chips. Tesla already uses fewer chips than other car manufacturers. And it could very well be that Tesla comes up with a custom set of chips for their vehicles to even more greatly reduce the number of chips that they use and have a chip manufacturer locked in with a high volume of production. Because they can see right now we needed 500,000 chips for 500,000 cars last year. We need chips for 900,000 this year. Next year, we're going to need chips for 2 million. We need somebody who's going to crank up the chip production. And if they don't see it, but Elon said it would take like 12 to 18 months for them to spin up their own chip foundry. Mumford says Tesla would be better off to make a large skateboard for step vans, cargo vans, and RVs. I think they make the shell as well as the skateboard and then let people do custom outfitting of their van. That would make sense to me, of the interior. Just like the Ford Transit. Declan says, hi Warren, which would you choose between the iron phosphate battery pack Model 3 standard range or the nickel manganese, which has slightly better range? I did talk about that earlier in the video, Declan. I think what Elon said was that you charge the iron phosphate battery pack to 100%, so you get 253 miles of range. With the nickel-based battery, you get 263 miles of stated range, but you generally only charge it to 90%, so you're losing 26 miles. You're only getting 237 miles of range. So I would probably choose the iron. And I think the iron phosphate battery pack is going to last longer. But for me, I think 250 miles, 260 miles of range is too short. I really want a vehicle with at least 300 miles of range. Especially because I think I might be towing. Todd Foster says chip foundries are vastly complex and expensive. Tesla should buy a share of one, maybe Samsung. I thought Tesla could buy a chip fab. They could buy a chip maker, a company. So I don't that might make, but I don't think I think acquisitions really suck. Oh, Critical Thinking asked this question. Taxis, Uber, and Lyft are here right now, so why don't people just get rid of their cars right now? Aha! So here's the answer to that, Critical Thinking. Uber and Lyft cost about $2.50 a mile for a ride. Varies. I paid $5 a mile in New York City and Vegas. There's a lot of variation in how much people are paying. I've heard people paying less than $2 a mile sometimes for rides, but I think the overall average for Uber and Lyft is $2.50 a mile. The overall cost for owning your own vehicle in the United States is around 60 or 70 cents a mile. Tasha Keeney from ARK Invest says 70 cents a mile. I say 60 cents a mile. If you were betting on who's right between me and Tasha, I would bet on Tasha. So until you get ride sharing down below 70 cents a mile, you don't swing below $1 a mile. You don't really start swinging a lot of people, and you get to 50 cents a mile, you swing most people. So Uber and Lyft can't get to below $1 a mile because they're stuck at 250 a mile because they have to pay a human to drive it. So robo-taxis lower the cost of providing the service, and ultimately we'll see robo-taxis get down to 50 cents a mile or less, the rides, and then no one's going to bother running a car. Andy says, I take a Cybertruck Tri-Motor with 475 mile range with LFP. I don't think the iron phosphate battery cells will be able to get 475 miles of range on a Cybertruck. I think that's the 300 plus version. The dual motor and single motor could do iron phosphate cells if they can be done in a structural pack, which I think it needs. Benjamin Saunders says it would cost $10 billion to build a chip factory, wouldn't it? Well, it costs other companies $10 billion to build a chip factory. I'm not sure it would cost Tesla $10 billion to build a chip factory. Shibumi says, what are my thoughts on UK as the next Gigafactory? One of Elon's goals is, where do people want to live? Build a factory in a place where people want to live, and a place that has a large population that's able to provide the infrastructure and educated populace to support running the factory. I don't think of England having a lot of places like that. Maybe London. I think Dublin, Ireland. Conceivably. I don't know if Dublin has enough population to support the operations of the factory. And I kind of like Dublin. Dublin has a lot of advantages. Somebody was telling me about Dublin as a possibility. So I have this. I come from a part of New York State that has a lot of my friends growing up were Irish. So I had this sort of like bizarre affinity as a New York Jew for Ireland. I think Ireland's a great place without knowing much about it. How many cars are exported from Fremont? Not many anymore. Exports are coming from Shanghai. When will Tesla start mining low-grade lithium clays in Nevada? I don't know if I don't think they're constrained by lithium right now, so I don't think that's a priority. I think they're working on it, but I don't think it's a big priority. My opinion on how Tesla Semi would perform in colder climates, I think Tesla Semi will be fine because they'll heat the battery pack. I don't see why that would be an issue. Oh, Edward, I don't know how to pronounce TSE, but that's a great comment. Apple selling 220 million iPhones does not justify a foundry. Tesla doing 20 million cars, how would that justify a foundry? That's a really good point. Now, keep in mind that, well, I think the individual iPhone has a bunch of chips in it. I think a car might have more chips than an iPhone. I'm not sure about that. That's a pretty good point, Edward. I can't argue with that. Apple doesn't have its own foundry. Why would Tesla have their own foundry? How would semi perform in colder climates? I think it'll be fine. Any thoughts on SpaceX being used to create space manufacturing facilities for microgravity applications? I think SpaceX is the default launch service to get anything into space. I don't think SpaceX itself is going to build space manufacturing facilities. I don't think that's on their roadmap. I think their focus right now is getting Starlink up and running and providing launch services to get to the moon and Mars. Yeah. Let's see. The question, pay off mortgage or put it all in Tesla shares? Well, this is not financial advice, but I would put it all in Tesla shares. Ben Pena says, Warren, did you get your renderings for your prototype car? Could we vote on the design maybe? No. No, you will not be voting on the design. This is not something for you guys to vote on. I'm going to get CAD renderings of different approaches to building the prototype. So far, the two I've seen so far look pretty close. I think the third guy, I've hired 3 different engineers to do this. I had a fourth, one engineer do it for me already. I didn't like his. So I hired 3 more on Upwork. And the first 2 guys are pretty close. I mean, the parameters I gave them are pretty tight. So we'll see what the CAD designs look like. But I'm actually, once I have the CAD designs, then I'm going to go to somebody local, like probably the first guy whose design I didn't like, to see, all right, can you manufacture this? I got to find somebody. I have somebody in mind in Space Coast, not far from Canaveral, who I talked to about building it. And I've got a friend locally who I've talked to about building it. So once I have the 3 CAD designs, I'm going to go to a couple of people who might build it and get an estimate from them of what it would cost to have them, which one they think they would be able to build easiest and at lowest cost, and so on. We've got to get powertrain done first. I'm pretty sure what I want to do on powertrain. I'm a little uncertain about the transmission and the controller. Okay, I answered Declan's question already. Brian Silver says, Tesla semis in Canada can have the wood stove option to warm the batteries. I'm from Albany, New York, so I get the woods. My uncle in New Hampshire had this great wood stove in the house. Yeah, wood stove. I don't think they're going to do wood stove on the semi, no. Would it make sense for Lyft and Uber to buy up all the Teslas and use them as robo-taxis? No, it doesn't make sense because Tesla wouldn't sell them to them. Tesla will run its own robo-taxi network. When do we see Podcar? Put out the designs of the community, see if you can get any slick videos back. I showed early previews of the rough layout earlier in this video. If you go back to, I think it was in Patreon Q&A up here. If you scroll back on the video, you should be able to see Patreon Q&A. The box, the green box will move up. Maybe it might be a yellow box for that one, but when the box is there, that's when I show those that picture and clip. Let's see. Just looking for questions in the chat. If you have questions, fire it out there. Ben Pena says, Hyundai and Kia have one of the best EV designs out there. I did not agree with your video that they will be in trouble. I didn't say they would be in trouble. I said Hyundai and Kia Hyundai is the most likely to survive. But not because they have the best EV design, but because they have a protected market. But if you look at their volume of sales, they're not big sellers. I just think they have government support and they have a protected market. How many years ahead does Tesla plan for? Well, I mean, Battery Day, they were planning ahead 10 years. That gives you an idea. All right, are we running out of questions? I'm not seeing a lot of new questions here. Sorry. All right, we might be wrapping up. I don't see new questions. And I'm a little tired, to be honest. I didn't get a good night's sleep. Let's see. I picture your single-person pod car looking like a wheelchair with a windshield. No. It is 3 feet wide, 7 to 8 feet long. It's about 4 feet high. No, 5 feet high. And not a windshield. It's going to be a shell, like a clamshell. It's going to be like this with a clamshell that comes over the top. It'll be taller than, like, I can't make the, I don't know. So I might change the way the shell works, but that I have a different idea for the shell now. But no doors, no windows, super aerodynamic, really low coefficient of drag. Model Y will break records next year, and with Cybertruck Semi-Roadster on the roads, it will create a hype around Tesla stock around Q2, Q3 2022. My guess, 1,500 stock price next summer. Well, so if Texas and Berlin ramp well, and they keep selling cars in insane volumes, and I think there's a chance that 2022 is 2 million cars. If it starts to look like Tesla's going to deliver 2 million cars in 2022, I think 1,500 is low. And if they have FSD working and the robo-taxi network becomes a lot more obvious. Night Trekker asks, is now a good time to buy real estate around Canaveral? I have shopped for real estate around Canaveral. I've gone on realtor.com and looked at lots. Yeah, I think that if you believe, I believe that Canaveral is going to become the primary launch site for Starship because the infrastructure around there is better, because there's more population to do the work, because they're closer to a fun place, Orlando, Tampa. Really, you know, that area is a nice area. There's a lot around there. So I think that, yeah, I mean, and real estate's cheap there. So if you think that Tesla's going to 10x their operations in Canaveral, and if you think Blue Origin's going to grow in Canaveral, which they've said they're going to do, then yeah. Michael Whitfield, hot cyberbot German bikini model included with Warren's windowless pod car. No, there is no bot included with the pod car. That would be too much weight. We want the vehicle to be efficient. You can buy your bots from Tesla, not from me. Tesla lawnmower, I don't think so. Would it make sense for Lyft and Uber? I think, okay. So let's see. Sirhan being released. I have no opinion on Sirhan. Can I make a dog shadow with my hands? No, I can't. Can your pods connect with each other? That's not part of the plan, that the pod cars would communicate with each other, or I don't know if you mean communicate with each other or attach to each other. It's not something I've been thinking about, but I think that would relate to the software. The software is something that's going to be added on at the end. Thank you for your support, Mark Scott. Any idea when SpaceX will become a public stock? I think that Starlink will be spun off as an IPO in a year or two. I don't think SpaceX will become public. I think SpaceX will be held as a private company for a long time, and the shareholders in SpaceX will get their payoff in the Starlink IPO, basically. Since we got computers to handle balance, you could go to one wheel to reduce friction. No, it's going to be 4 wheels. I don't think the riding dynamics are good on 3 wheels for a rider. Am I familiar with the Unity? My rider pod might look like that. I am not familiar with the Unity. I have people constantly telling me, hey, Warren, your pod car sounds like this vehicle, sounds like that vehicle. A simple question is the Unity made to be driven? If it's made to be driven, it doesn't look like my vehicle. My vehicle is made to be ridden in without being driven because it will drive itself. And it's a radical difference in design. No doors, no windows. Okay. Oh, why does my pod car need a super low coefficient of drag? Great question, Carl. It can just go charge up when it needs fuel, and carrying groceries, baggage, etc. might be more important. So I think that it depends on the application for the pod car. I don't think there's much reason not to have it have a low coefficient of drag. Some of a large portion, I expect a large portion of the rides to be at speed, 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour, 70 miles an hour, maybe 100 or more. In a robo-taxi world, 100 miles an hour plus may be likely. So it depends on where the person's going. You know, the goal is, let's say you've got some guy in India and he wants to go from city A to city B, and it's a 100-mile trip. And if they ride in the back of a Tesla robo-taxi and they've gotten the cost of robo-taxi rides down as 25 cents a mile, it costs them $25. And I can deliver that ride for $5 in my vehicle. Well, that's 100 miles. You want to be aerodynamic on a 100-mile trip. That's basically it. So, will my pod car will the vehicle with instant styrofoam using air instead of using air? I'm not planning on. I do not expect the pod car to be safer than a regular car. I expect it to be safer than a motorcycle, but less safe than a regular car in a crash. Safe FSD driving, driven in safe environments, it should be safe, but we're not going for crash worthiness like a regular car or a Tesla car. Have I heard what the ratio of Starship upper stages will be to super heavy boosters? I haven't heard. I think we'll have a lot more Starships than boosters, but I don't know what the number is. At least 3-to-1, maybe 5-to-1. When can we see the CGI of your proposed solar passenger vehicles? So the plan is to get a physical prototype first. And then once we have the physical prototype, there's this question, like right now I'm self-funding. I'm not reaching out for investors. At some point, I expect to reach out for investors. If Tesla stock goes up enough that I can continue self-funding, then I will continue self-funding. When I get to the point that I think I need to self-fund, then I'm going to pay a significant amount of money, like thousands of dollars, to have a really good animations made of what the pod car will look like in use, to go along with actual video we'll make of the prototype pod car that we're using. My hope is I get past the alpha prototype and can continue to self-fund. Matt, no steering wheel, no pedals, no doors, no windows. Battery pack right now I'm looking at about 8 kilowatt hour pack mark, but it could be larger depending on how things go. Roughly 8 kilowatt hour pack, 6 12-volt lithium iron phosphate batteries. It add up to about 7.7 kilowatt hours, I think was the number. So self-fund as long as I can. And at some point, I probably would do a crowdfunding round. Federal law limits you to $5 million funding in a crowdfunding round. $5 million would be plenty for what I want to do. I was looking at, somebody suggested I look at the Advanced Technology Vehicle Manufacturing Loan Program from the federal government. It's a libertarian, of course. I don't love the idea, but why not take a look? And I actually had a conversation with somebody from that program this week. And it turns out that the way that process works, the minimum loan you would want to take is $100 million. And I don't anticipate getting to that level in the initial round of production. If the initial round of production goes well and we decide we're going to build a much bigger factory, then maybe we do the $100 million loan. But I would rather just keep self-funding it than borrow money. Maybe that's bad business strategy, but I think it's the right thing to do. Will Elon surpass Thomas Edison as the greatest inventor scientist eventually? I think he already has. I'll say that. I am like the world's biggest Elon Musk fan, right? So I would say he has already surpassed Edison as the greatest inventor, scientist, entrepreneur of all time. But I am a clearly biased Elon Musk fan. James Patrick says light speed and fiber is 2/3 that of space. I heard half. I don't know. I'm not going to resolve that dispute right now. Let's see. Will pod car have radio, air conditioning, etc.? Right now, the plan is to not have HVAC in the pod car. No radio. People are going to have phones. They can listen to music on their phones. This is bare bones. The best part is no part. As few parts as possible. No suspension, no brakes. This is one of the things when it gets crazy. What do you mean no brakes? No brakes, no suspension. The best part is no part. How low cost can we make this vehicle? All right. Tommy McLean says you need 3 wheels. 4 wheels is more mass and more drag. Tommy McLean, I appreciate that. And when you build your single passenger vehicle, you can go with 3 wheels. I think that 3 wheels and 4 wheels is about the same drag because you're going to have the same vehicle width one way or the other. So I don't see that the frontal surface area is different. I don't think that the drag coefficient is improved that much by going to 3 wheels. Mass, you're correct. The extra wheel is more mass, but that's a very small share of the mass of the car. Gives a lot better stability, gives a much better ride, and the tires will last a lot longer than on a 3-wheel vehicle. Big problem with that is that the tires don't last long on 3-wheel vehicles. And if you're trying to get your cost of operation down, and you have to change tires, you spend more money on tires, then it gets more expensive. Add a trailer hitched to pod car so you can add attachments, such as bike racks. I don't want to rule that out, but I don't think that's part of the plan. Golly from Hyperchain seems to be just as big of an Elon Musk fan as you are. Well, yeah, but Golly's gotten into other things. He's investing in Arcimoto. He's got his own fund. I mean, there's a lot of Elon Musk fans. I'm not claiming I'm really the biggest Elon Musk fan in the world. I'm just a big Elon Musk fan, right? So I love Golly. Hi, Melody. Thank you for watching the show. See you on Clubhouse. Sure. Send me a DM on Clubhouse if you can. We'll chat. Let's see. Have I run any other medium-sized businesses other than lawyer? So I started my law firm in 2003, ran the law firm, still technically run the law firm, but I wouldn't call it medium-sized. I don't know if it was ever medium-sized. It was always a small business. I started a web business called SpinJ Corporation, which still exists. That is primarily a simple website with no employees. That's probably the other business. I run West Boca News, I've run a lot of very small businesses. I don't think I've ever run any medium-sized business. The biggest business I ran was a law firm with 5 or so employees. So yeah, I mean, that's, definitely going to be challenges along the way. But for me right now, it's like I got to build I think I can get the prototype built with very low cost and and either 0 or 1 or 2 employees, on contract employees rather than full-time employees, or hire an outside contractor. Getting to the beta prototype, at that point I'll probably hire people full-time. We'll see. Should Tesla sell semi to fleets? I think that's the plan. I think the plan is to sell semi to fleets. How do you plan to come up with the self-driving software? I'm not creating the self-driving software. I am anticipating that 3 to 4 years from now, when I'm ready to produce my vehicle, there will be self-driving software solutions out there. Maybe I'm optimistic about that. But if I wait until there is self-driving software to start designing the vehicle, then by the time I have the vehicle, somebody else will already have a single passenger vehicle and I'll be too late. So start building it now. Get ready. Brian Silver says no windows, so no visual of the outside. It'll be a puke mobile. I get that criticism a lot. It's possible that the shell will be transparent or will have a transparent part of it. The key point there is no windows means less weight and it means less aerodynamic drag. But you could build a shell that's all transparent, or you could build a shell that's part transparent. I was actually thinking you put a LCD screen, and if you want to see outside, just click and it'll show you outside and it'll look like you're looking out a window. That's not hard to do. They do it at Orlando, at Universal Studios Orlando on the Harry Potter train. All right. Let's see. Did I hear correctly, Warren? 100 miles an hour on Indian roads in a vehicle with no suspension. So, Declan, I think that the 100-mile-an-hour pod car would probably have to have a suspension. Here's my thing. Everyone is telling me it's going to need a suspension. I love it. For those who don't know, Declan and I talk a lot on Clubhouse. I really appreciate Declan being here. Everyone is telling me it's going to need a suspension. So my attitude is the best part is no part. Let's run it without a suspension and see how it goes. What if we lowered the air tire pressure? What result would that have? What can we do to make it work without having to do a suspension? Keep the vehicle as minimal as possible. I think that some applications will not be going. I think the 100 mile an hour application will be rare. I think the 40 to 50 mile hour application will be more common. 70 mile an hour application might be common, but let's build it and see how it runs and then decide if we need to add a suspension later rather than starting with the part and bleeding it. I think that's the Elon approach. Carl says Sandy Monroe likes the 3-wheel model. Okay, well, but Sandy Monroe is thinking about a vehicle that is being driven by a human, and a human enjoys the ride, enjoys driving it. The extra wheel is not, and the extra wheel is not more drag. The shell is going to go over the wheel. The drag is trivial. The extra wheel is more parts. I think the complexity of a 3-wheel vehicle messes that up. So, new valuation if Tesla bot becomes a reality, $500,000. I haven't done a Tesla bot valuation yet. A full valuation. Oh, excuse me. The puppy wanted to get out. She's not a frunk puppy yet, but she will be someday. Oh, great question from my channel. What is proprietary about the pod car? Not much. Once the pod car's out, it'll be if the pod car comes out and starts working and start making some money, there'll be Chinese knockoffs in a week. I don't think there's any special exciting technology. I will probably try to patent something, but I don't think there's any special exciting technology in it that somebody's going to be able to lock up. You know, it's an electric vehicle that has one seat. What's so novel about that? There have been other, solar vehicles or whatever that were streamlined and everything. And, I don't see that I'm doing anything that novel. It's more of the business model. It's more of the idea. And the market is so huge, if this works, that if I get 5% of the market, I'm doing great. And if I cause others, the goal here is to accelerate the transition to sustainable energy and transportation for the world's poor, because Tesla is doing it for the wealthy, working down their way down to the upper middle class and the middle class in wealthy countries. This can accelerate the transition and clean the air and do this for the world's poor. And if I end up making only a little bit of money on it or making no money on it, but I made the world a better place, I'm happy with that. Hopefully I'll make money on it. Most likely it's going to fail, right? There's a 95% chance this isn't going to work. What happened to the mood lighting? Oh, I'm trying white as a background, Night Trekker. I have colored lights behind me. I have colored, they're colored lights, and I tried white. I got some good feedback on the white, but I can switch it colors anytime. Philip Mazie says, Warren, unless it runs on track, it would need a suspension. There's so many vehicle dynamics engineers out there who know what they're talking about. Critical Thinking says, as a former auto mechanic, listen, everyone has told me it needs a suspension. I appreciate all your thoughts, your hopes and prayers. The alpha prototype is not going to have a suspension. We're going to see. When we get to engineering the beta prototype, I will have engineers on the team, and if they persuade me, look, we really need a suspension, then we'll really get a suspension. Go-karts don't have suspensions, and as far as I know, you're saying one large bumper pothole can cause a rollover because the entire vehicle absorbs the shock. I think there are plenty of go-karts that don't have suspensions and they hit bumps and they don't roll over. I think I think the question is, can it be done? Let's try it without the part first. I just love that there's so many people who don't get what Elon says. People are like, how can you go without brakes? Well, let's try it and see, and if it doesn't work, then we'll do it. JJ says, are you building the pod car expecting to use Tesla licensed FSD to drive it? I would like that, but I think Tesla's FSD will cost too much. If it's a $1,000 vehicle, I don't want to pay $10,000 for FSD. Can I negotiate a deal with Tesla to do FSD? Can we put it in the Tesla robo-taxi network and wherever? Maybe it makes sense. I certainly wouldn't rule it out. I've talked to people at Tesla about it. Not about licensing FSD, but I've talked to them about the vehicle. But my hope is that there will be multiple options out there, and probably I will choose a lower cost option than Tesla FSD. But if Tesla is willing to work with me, that would be my first choice for sure. I just don't think it's likely. Michael Chapman says, Warren, what about the cost of the production line, infrastructure, human assembly, robot assembly down the road, investors? So for me, it's like, let's get to the alpha prototype first. Let's get to the beta prototype second. The beta prototype, we will think about manufacturing as part of the design of the beta prototype. How do we design this to be manufactured for less? And I think the first round of production will probably be fairly low volume. So, oh, this is great. Matt Senko says, go-karts don't need a suspension because the center of mass and vehicle are so close to the ground. Yes. Yes, exactly, Matt. And the center of mass of this vehicle will be very close to the ground because you have a battery pack as the lowest thing in the vehicle. You got 113 pounds sitting right on the road. You got the tires, you got the chassis. It's low to the ground. Nice tub. Thank you for your kind comment. Will I buy FSD from Tesla? I think I already answered that. Stock symbol for Podcard? No, I don't have a stock symbol yet. I don't know that I would ever be publicly traded. I mean, honestly, if I could develop the company and never sell an investment and self-fund the whole thing the whole way, I would do that. Why would I want to have investors if I didn't have to? How many bicycles have suspension? Bicycles do have suspensions. I love your streams because they're not interrupted. Yeah, the ad thing, the ad thing is a challenge, but we'll see. Let's see. Let's see. Lazy boy with poles carried by a Tesla bot in the front and the back like a Chinese emperor. Give the chair a suspension. Interesting. I think that ultimately we're going to have something like leaf springs, but I want to try to do it first and see how it goes. And somebody else said maybe we do a flexible suspension. Maybe you can, I mean, there's flexible chassis. Maybe you can build flex into the chassis and that works. But that's like a down the road question. That's like a beta prototype question. It's not an alpha prototype question. Alpha prototype, no brakes, no suspension. Let's see what we can do. Probably won't go over 15 miles an hour, and then it'll be safe. And when we start testing it, it'll be remote controlled with a mannequin in it, because I wouldn't feel safe in the thing until we've had it test driven a bit. Did I talk about the picture showing the first pre-production? I did talk about the pre-production Model Y, yes. Probably in the Tesla section up here. You can move the green box up by moving back in the video. You get to the Tesla section. That's where I talked about it. Let's see. What about the wheels tilt during turns? Well, four-wheel cars, the wheels don't tilt during turns. Why would you want to do that? Why wouldn't that wear the tires more if you did that? CBar65 says, can I quickly explain the general idea of my vehicle? Just joined. Okay, for people who are new to this, I've been talking about this for ages. I talk about this a lot on my channel. I am designing a single passenger vehicle intended for self-driving, a future of self-driving cars, because I think it would be the most efficient form of transportation, because most trips are single person. So why have a 5-passenger vehicle when most of the trips? Why not have a single passenger vehicle? Why would your smallest vehicle seat 5 passengers when most trips are 1 person? So why not have an ultra efficient single passenger vehicle that's 3 feet wide and 8 feet long and 4 feet high? So it has a low frontal surface area of less than 15 square feet and no doors and no windows. Super low coefficient of drag. So very, very efficient at speed, very, very efficient overall because it's low weight. Electric vehicle, and the plan is to have it ready for the day when there is available self-driving software at a reasonable price that we can add to the vehicle later. We're not going to develop our own self-driving software. We're going to add self-driving software from someone else and make it all work. Maybe it's Tesla FSD, maybe it's somebody else. Ideally for me it'd be Tesla FSD, but it might cost too much. Dave Rainbow says, Warren, listen back to your comments. You're talking yourself out of this. With every answer, no USP. I don't know what you're talking about. What do I see as the average distance people will take your cart? Cart. Pod car. We're calling it a pod car. I think the average difference is probably 5 miles or less, but there may be some applications where people go 100 miles or more. I think the average ride in a city is probably somewhere between 2 and 10 miles. I'm not sure exactly. So Fader says, if you want to use someone's FSD, you want to know who. Tesla uses 8 cameras in very precise locations. I know where I want the cameras. I want 3 front cameras and 1 back camera. I might even go to 2 front cameras and 1 back camera. We'll see. Why don't I create a spec? If you look at Boxable's crowdfunding round, that they got a pretty good deal out of that. Warren, would your wife ride in a pod car? No, I'm not sure I would ride in a pod car on a regular basis. They're designed for poor countries where people ride in crappy vehicles already. I think the Boring Company would be a good application. All right, Boring Company tunnel system could be a good application. I don't need funding, and if I did need funding, I would do crowdfunding. I appreciate all the business advice, but I've thought about this a lot. Okay, so I think we've gone 2 hours. I don't see any questions I haven't answered yet. So I want to thank the Vasa Law Firm in Sweden and all my Patreon supporters for helping the channel grow. Please check the description below for links to that. Links to elonbits.com for t-shirts and stainless steel water bottles. Genuinely love this stuff. Really recommend it. I think it's great stuff. I only wear my own shirts now. This is my stainless steel water bottle. I talked about Rivian earlier in the Elon section, if you're asking about that. Check out my channel, warrenredlick.locals.com. There's also a link to that in the description below where I talk about political issues that I will not talk about here. You can check out my book, Fair DUI, is linked in the description below. If you like the way I think, this is a book that will help you learn how to be safe when you get pulled over. And Chapter 2 is Don't Drink and Drive. Chapter 1 is an introduction. Chapter 2 is Don't Drink and Drive and practical advice about it. People say don't drink and drive. Well, that's easy. A drunk person isn't going to get that message. So how do you prepare so that you don't drink and drive? So that's a big chapter in the book. How will my car project impact your YouTube activity? I'm going to keep making YouTube videos as long as I can. If the company becomes a huge success and I have to work 80 hours a week on it, but I'm going to make $1 billion, I'm going to do that. But all right. So anyway, investors, if you want to check out my email list, there's a link to that in the description below. There's probably other stuff in the description below that I can't think of. Thank you so much and thanks to the moderators, Mark Potocznik, Matt Sankow. Remember who else was here? I think Carl Stockmall was here. I don't remember if Mark Plott was here today. Thanks to the moderators for helping moderate the